Welcome, Tiger fans. It is Tuesday, March 12th. Mark Fitzpatrick is doing his annual job as the arena announcer for the Big 12 tourney. So, Paul Blackman, I'm here to fill in. We've got as our guest today back, he's been here several times, is Joel Goldberg. Joel, thank you for coming.
Paul, thanks for having me.
So, everybody wants to know what's your prediction for the year? I realize.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that a little bit, the expectations for this team.
Yeah, I mean, the expectations are high. I think the expectations are high for fans. I've been joking, and you guys heard it here at the Tiger Club, that they're going to finish anywhere from first to fifth, and everybody laughs and rolls their eyes like, well, there's not a sixth, and there's not anything better than first. So way to cover all the bases, Goldberg. But my point to that is that, I don't know what it's going to take to win this division. This is arguably the worst division in baseball, which is certainly to the benefit of the Royals. I think that it helped in them maybe speeding up the process this offseason, and they invested a lot of money. They spent over $100 million in free agency. They signed Bobby Witt Jr., $289 million. And this is a division that's wide open. It's not going to take 90-something wins, so maybe it takes 80-something. My pushback and why I say anywhere from first to fifth is that in order to win this division, they're going to need to win – to get to 500, they're going to need to win 25 more games than last year. That's a massive improvement. That's very uncommon in baseball. They also have a team that's almost a third new with veterans. And so if they were to finish towards the bottom of the division, I think it'll still be a 70 or 80 win season. I think that's what it is. They're somewhere in the 70s to 80s, which is a heck of an improvement from 56.
Okay, so they brought in 10 veterans, I believe you said. Mm-hmm. Okay, but they brought in veterans before. Mm-hmm. What makes this infusion better? Maybe not better is a word, but more hopeful. Why is this more hopeful? Because they brought in players over the years.
Yeah, but a lot of those players, when it's very rare to see 10. I mean, maybe you see 2, 3, 4, maybe 5. But then when you look at the ones that came in, too, 2 new pieces to the rotation. So 2/5 of your rotation is brand new. And if you go back, even this isn't a veteran, but if you go back to last year opening day, Cole Reagans is he's either your opening day starter or somewhere 1 through 3. He is being talked about as a dark horse, as a Cy Young candidate this year. He's in his mid-20s. He was the piece in the Aroldis Chapman trade. So you have the very proven Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo to go along with Cole Reagans. That feels very different to me. Now you're talking about Brady Singer probably being your 4 instead of asking him to be a 1 or a 2. Jordan Lyles had a bad year, but now you have him as your 5. And so you're not counting on him as much. And if he figures it out, great. What a huge bonus. If he doesn't, you can go different routes. When you have 4 new pieces in your bullpen, not 1, but 4, that's big. And then I just like that everybody they brought in, they aren't guys they brought in to say, well, if they figure it out, I talked about what ifs in my speech up there, but if they figure it out, they'll make the team. Now, these guys were all brought in to make the team, but some of them were brought in to come off of the bench. Some of them were brought in to help the younger guys. And so they're very deliberate in going after these guys.
You mentioned Jordan Lyles, and I always thought he was interesting because last year, say he pitched 8 innings, which he often did, or 7 innings. 6 were always terrific. He'd had that 1 inning, but I'm wondering if he is the 5 and 5 hole this year, how much different is that? Because maybe he's not asked to be the 2 or 3.
That's exactly right. And not only that, but I think you can have a guy like that in your rotation. But when you have more than one guy like that, and so last year that other guy like that was Zach Greinke. And while Zach Greinke's numbers may not have been what Lyles were, you knew that with Zach at 39 years old, that it was going to be 5 innings on a good day. It might be 3 or 4. So now, okay, if your starting pitcher is going 3 or 4 or 5 innings, there's a pretty good chance now you're getting way into the bullpen early. There's a trickle-down effect to that in the coming days. And now you have Jordan Lyles, who is going 7 or 8 innings for you, but maybe he's giving up 5 or 6 or 7 runs. So 2 out of every 5 days, you were behind the 8 ball. And so part of it was you were needing Jordan Lyles to do more because the other guys weren't doing what they were doing. But I think more significantly, they're very optimistic about Jordan this year. But if that doesn't work, they can go different directions. And I don't think they could go other directions last year.
Okay, you mentioned Zach Greinke. I'm surprised no one asked about this.
I am too.
But what's the deal? I mean, we're getting close. We're 2 weeks away from opening day. Is he going to sign anywhere? And if so, is it going to be Kansas City?
All right, this one might be surprising to people, but Zach has never returned my phone calls. But actually, I don't have his phone number. I've had a good career covering Zach, but typically people in my role and even teammates aren't going to be the ones to get a hold of him. He is a unique individual. So I'm trying to put on my my thinking cap, my psychological cap here, and to say that knowing Zach a little bit, I can't. This is just my guess. He loves the game. I'm guessing he still believes that he has something to contribute, and I think he does. I also believe that if he were to retire, for all I know, he has retired and hasn't told anybody. There's no real way to get in his head. So my sense is that he would still want to compete and do that if there's an offering. But I also don't think he's the kind of guy with his comfort level in certain places and not in others that he's going to just open that up to 30 teams. I would imagine that if an opportunity were there with Kansas City, that would be interesting to him. I would imagine that if there was an opportunity in Arizona where one of his homes is, that would be interesting to him. But Arizona is considered a World Series contender this year. Do they have room for a 40-year-old pitcher that would have to come out of the bullpen or maybe give you 3 or 4 innings in a rotation? No. The Royals, as I've said, already have 5 guys in the rotation and really another 4 to 5 that are worthy of potentially being in that rotation. That's a great depth problem to have. So to me, the question then becomes, could you have him pitch in your bullpen as the long man, the emergency guy? Yes, but then that's taking a spot. Like, what if Alec Marsh is good enough to make the team but not be in the rotation? What about Daniel Lynch? It can't come at the expense of those guys. It would be great for him to get to 3,000 strikeouts here. I just don't know if there's a spot for him.
And the Royals dabbled a little bit last year with an opener.
Yeah.
That seems like an ideal spot for him because he's not going to give you 8 innings anymore.
Right.
But he might give you a really good 2 innings.
That's right. But I think if you're expecting to be a 100-loss team, you can mess with that stuff. But if you truly believe that you have a chance to win this thing or be competitive this year, and oh, by the way, whether they win this division or not, they've got to get better because it's not just about trying to sell a stadium. It's not just – you can't leave this fan base without anything for as long as they have. They've got to show progress. This is – year number 1 for John Sherman's ownership group was 2020. I think that we can give a mulligan on 20 and even 21 in terms of pandemic and all that type of stuff. So now 22, 23, 24, this is the third sort of normal year. They got to get moving here, and they know that. And I don't know that you can mess with stuff like that with Zach Greinke right now. If you do, it really has to be well designed because the number 1 goal right now, I know it always is, but the number 1 goal right now has to be winning.
Great. One last question that everybody's going to want to know about this. How much do you know about the Salvi splash when it's coming? Do you just see it coming? Or because everybody always says, poor Joel.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Like I always tell people, like I've never orchestrated that. I just try to follow his plan. The interesting thing is I don't know that he did it more than twice last year. And I know there's a joke about, well, they didn't win very much, but 56 wins. It was usually Bobby Witt Jr. and or MJ Melendez. And it seems to me as though he has, for the most part, passed that on to the younger generation.
But it's still called the Salvi splash.
You can't ever change that, right? So Salvi doesn't need to be involved in it. There are nights where I look over and I could see them kind of stirring up a cocktail. Now they put candy in there and coffee in there. The coffee doesn't hurt because it goes cold right away. I can smell it. I know what they put in there because I smell it when it comes down. But I think that I haven't asked him about this yet. I will. But I think he has decided that let's let the young guys do it, although he will always be the first to tell you or tell me that it takes 2 of them to do it. They can't do it the way that I did it. I saw him do it. The couple times I saw him do it last year were for big moments. So I almost feel like he is the Salvi Splash emeritus now. When it's a really big moment, it's his deal. And whenever he wants to do it, they're going to back away.
Joel, thank you
Thanks,
so
Paul.
much for coming back to Tiger Club. We hope you'll come back in future years.
Always happy to.
Fans, next week we have Blair Kerkhoff from the Kansas City Star, a long time.
And a great guy.
Great guy. He's a great writer and a better guy. And Blair will be with us again next week. And then in 2 weeks, our last meeting here at the Westport Flea Market, we're going to have Brendan Steenburgen, the author of the book Respectable Roughnecks, about the 1960 Missouri football season. So join us. And if you need to find out more information, go to kctiger.club online.